Hey guys, Coach Brandon Krause here. Today we're going to be going over some head movement, specifically the slip, all right? Now I want to preface something before we begin that when we say head movement in boxing, we're really not talking about head movement, right? I'm not moving my head like this, right? Really what I'm doing is I'm moving my hips and manipulating my hips, and that's what in turn moves my head and takes it off that center line that my opponent is aiming at, all right? But like I said, we're going to specifically talk about the slip today. And you're staring straight at me, right? And let's say that this line right here that I'm making represents where my head is, obviously. By pivoting my hips, by pivoting my feet, I will move my head off that center line to one side or the other. How much? No further than your own hips. You don't want any technique where you are moving away from your hips. So yes, you want your head to move, but it's not that your balance changes from one position to the other. Your balance remains even, set in the center of your feet, like an axis went right down the center of my head. And what I do is if I want to move to the left, my right foot pivots, and that'll move my head off to that side without my balance changing. If I want to move to the right, my left foot will pivot, and that will in turn move my head off to the side without my balance changing. It's important that I have balance because in boxing they say it's not about making them miss, it's about making them pay, all right? So I'm here with Dylan, and let's say in slow motion he starts throwing the jab at me, and I can slip to the inside, and you notice that shot missed me. And that's all I want. Once that shot misses me, goal accomplished. It seemed kind of counterintuitive, but making that shot barely miss me is much better than making it miss by a mile. Why? Because what I said earlier, I want to make him pay. I want to get some sort of counter. So if I can be economic with my effort and use a minimal amount of movement to make this miss, that's a minimal amount of movement that I have to come back with the counter. But if I made this thing miss by a mile, I'm in no position to let my own shots go and get off on my opponent. Often I'll have beginners in the ring with me and I'll be doing different drills in which I ask them to hit me. And at the end of the drills, they'll always say, "Coach, I almost hit you. I almost hit you a number of times." And I go, well, that's the point. Because by design, you're always going to almost hit me, all right? So I'm going to throw this jab at Dylan. Dylan's going to pivot his left foot, and that's going to move his head to the right, to the outside of this punch. Now this punch is traveling straight, so depending on his strategy, depending on his tactics, and depending on his acute need, he could also slip the other direction, so slip to the inside. Keeping those hands up into position, because eventually you want to throw those shots at your opponent. Go the other way. Go the other way. When you are practicing at home, when you are drilling with somebody, or even when you're doing it in the mirror, make sure both hands remain up. Don't get in this bad habit of slipping to the left but dropping the right hand and slipping to the right and dropping to the left hand. There's no technique where you intentionally drop your hands. Let's put it that way, all right? So a good drill, if you had a partner and a partner you feel safe working with, would be to just exchange these jabs back and forth, all right? So Dylan, I'm going to throw the jab at you. You're going to slip. Dylan's going to throw the jab at me. I'm going to slip. I'm going to throw it at him. He's going to slip. Throw it at me. I'm going to slip. You could design this like to go left, to go right, to go left, to go right. But usually in the gym, what I have people do is slip any direction. Just make sure at some point you're practicing both. When it is conventional versus conventional, meaning a right-handed fighter versus a right-hand fighter, you honestly have a lot more options as far as a countering opportunity goes, slipping to the inside of your opponent's shot. So he comes here, he shows that shot, and I slip to the inside, and really, I can close my eyes, let my hands go, I'm going to hit something. It's a very advantageous position to be in. The problem is, the double-edged sword, and there's always a double-edged sword in boxing, is when I am on the inside like that, if I were to just linger here, you see that shot is lined up for me. So whatever I'm going to do, I better do it with conviction, and I better do it quickly. I slip to the outside. Honestly, I'm safer because his own arm is guarding me from his right hand. But the problem is it's doing the same from my right hand. So I don't have a lot of options like I did when I slipped to the inside. Now that right hand is coming straight also, so I can slip that shot. It's coming straight, so I can slip it to the inside. And it will be the same. It will be the same ideas that to the inside I have a lot of countering opportunities. You know what other shots come straight at you? Uppercuts come straight at you. So let's say he were to throw his left uppercut at me. I can slip that as if it was a jab. Because that same shot at me, I can slip that to the inside as if it was a jab coming straight at me. And of course, the right uppercut, slip out to the outside, slip to the inside. And it's a pivot of the hips because eventually you're going to be letting your shots go. All right, Dylan, I want you to slip and I want you to give me a counter punch off that. But don't really hit me because I'm a pretty guy. How about the other one?
Okay.
Nice, nice. Your opponent expected to hit you. They expected, boom, some sort of contact to happen. So when you slip and make them miss, they're going to lose their balance ever so slightly. Well, if you were able to get them to commit in the first place, right? And that's to your advantage because that loss of balance will open up more countering opportunities for you and make it harder for them to put a next shot on to make up for their missed punch, okay? Dylan, thank you very much. So, some takeaways of the slip is you're trying to get your head to move off that center axis with a pivot of the hips, putting you one way or the other. It is not a bend of the waist away from your hips. It's slipping with your entire body. It's slipping with evenly distributed weight. And it's keeping your hands up as you do it. No technique do I want where you intentionally drop your hands, all right? And in the great words of Dr. Dre, don't let me slip, because if I slip, then I'm slipping, all right? Keep tuning in.
Like and subscribe.